4 tenses per chapter. In total, we'll be covering 12 tenses. So let's get started with tenses part 1. First comes in your category is simple present. But before we dive into simple present, let's understand what is the general overview of tense we have. So in general, when we study tense, we have an information that tenses are of 3 types: past tense, present tense, and your future tense. But when we come into deeper sense, we understand past tense comprises of 4 tenses. Those are simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. The same goes for present tense and future tense respectively. So present tense will have simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous. And the same goes for future tense. So before we actually understand each one of them in detail, please remember you have 12 tenses divided into 3 broader sections: past, present, and future, and then their respective 4 sections in each, which makes it 12. I hope this is clear. So now let's understand simple present in more detail. In simple present, you will have a pattern to be followed, and let's understand with the table. So in simple present, the first thing and the foremost thing you should understand that the verb is either directly used or it's used within S form of the verb. For example, Ram plays cricket. So Ram is your subject, plays is your verb, and cricket is your object. The identification of simple present tense in this, that play was a normal verb, but since Ram is a singular, we have put S at the end of the verb, and hence it became Ram plays. So if we have we will write we play cricket rather than writing we plays cricket, which is incorrect. So the rule number 1 you should remember, whenever you have a singular noun or a subject, in this case, you will always use S form or ES form. But if you have a plural noun or a subject, you will only have the main verb. Now, let's move on to rule number 2. You will find in certain situation do and does to be used with your main verb. So if we look into this example, Sita does play cricket. Now you have Sita as your subject, you have does as your helping verb, play will be your main verb, and cricket is your object. So now, if we generally write this sentence, we would say Sita plays cricket, which is a simple present. Sita plays cricket. We automatically puts an S because it's a singular noun. But now we have used does, so automatically S from play will be removed and the sentence will take the place of Sita does play cricket. The S which we were using in front of main verb will take the place of does in your helping verb. Now, in this particular form, you're looking into a negative sentence and hence we have put does not play cricket. You must be wondering, what about we does play cricket? Does it make sense or is it incorrect? Yes, it's incorrect. Since it's a plural noun, it will become do. So we do play cricket. Now the main verb is still same, but your helping verb will change according to your subject. It will either become do or it will take the form of does. Now the third form is where we frame questions starting from do and does. It's very simple. All you have to do is take your helping verb and put it at the first form. So do they play cricket? The main verb will still follow the same rule of do and does. If you don't have do, you will have either W word or other questions like why do you play, why are you playing, something like that, which is not the subject matter that we're discussing right now. We are focusing on do they play cricket. Since we are using do and it's a plural subject, we will just write play cricket. Since we understood what is the structure of simple present tense, Now let's understand where do we exactly use simple present tense. Simple present tense is used to talk about regular habits. So you might say that I wake up every morning at around this clock, or maybe I drive my car every day, or I go to shop. You can take other examples like she goes to shopping with me. In this case, we are using goes because it's a singular subject. So please understand, whenever you talk about regular habits or something that is happening every day, you will use simple present tense. I wake up at 7 a.m. every day. So now waking up is a process that I'm doing every day at 7 o'clock, and hence I have used our simple present tense. She uses her vehicle every day to go to her office. So uses is your simple present tense because we are talking about a regular activity. So she was singular, and hence I have used S form of the verb. Use plus S becomes uses. Moving on, there are certain words that you will always identify as the regular habits. For example, we may use words like always, normally, often, rarely, every day. Or we can use generally, usually, sometimes, never, every evening. So if you remember the previous slides, we talked about I wake up at 7 o'clock every day. In here, you can see this word is an identification that we are describing a regular habit. Simple present is also used to talk about universal truths and facts. I am sure you must have heard in your 10th standard or maybe 1st standard as the first use of simple present that wherever you find universal truth or a fact, it's always simple present tense. So what do we mean by that? We mean that, for example, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. You cannot change this fact. You cannot change this idea over here, and hence it becomes a universal fact. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. No matter if you are in India or in Europe or wherever, the water always boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Also, teenagers don't generally have much money. So this is not a truth. This is not a universal truth, but it's a universal fact. And most of us agree to this fact that teenagers don't generally have much money. So since we have plural, teenagers, and hence we have written do plus not, do not or don't. There are words that help you to describe facts and truth, like mainly, normally, traditionally, or generally, usually, sometimes. So you can say mainly, teenagers do not have money at the age of 16. So now using these words or traditionally or sometimes, usually, you are describing that we are talking about facts and truths. Simple present tense is also used to talk about permanent situations. You must be saying to your friends that, I own a house. So now owning or possession is showing that you have something permanently. It doesn't change. If you have a house today, you will have a house tomorrow, and hence it becomes a permanent situation. In those places, we can always use simple present tense. I own a Mercedes. That means it's mine. It's a permanent situation. She lives in Bangalore. So when we talk about she lives in Bangalore, that means for last 10 years or something, she must be living in Bangalore, and hence it became a permanent situation. Please understand that she was singular, and hence we have put an S form here. But you must be wondering, with I, we are never following the rule of singular. Yes, that's correct. So I always follow a rule of plural, and hence they play the role of main verb directly. Instead, she, he, it, any name, Ram, Sita or whatever, you will always use S form of the main verb or the helping verb. Simple present tense is also used to talk about movies and books. What do I mean? It's like In Bahubali movie, Katappa kills Bahubali. So I'm not talking about universal fact or something. All I'm talking about is a movie. Katappa kills Bahubali. My main verb has taken the form of S because Katappa is singular and hence we use kills as the verb. Or fictional books are full of stories. So it's kind of a general fact that fictional books are full of stories. And hence, next time, wherever you find that it's a conversation about movies and books happening in present tense, it will be your simple present tense. Simple present tense has one more use, that is to give directions and instructions. You all must have encountered this, that your delivery guy might have called you and asked for the address. So you tell him, come to this road, take a right, then take a left, you will see a medical store, then next to the medical store there is a road. You always talk in simple present tense whenever you give direction and instructions. An example, to start your laptop, click on the power button. So I have main verb 1, I have main verb 2, both of them are in simple present tense. Simple present tense, another example can be explained. Another example would be, take a left at the corner of the road to reach my house. So, take a left or reach my house are both simple present tense. And hence, from now onwards, whenever you are talking about directions and instructions, please use simple present tense. You use simple present tense to talk about your regular activities, to talk about universal facts and figures, to talk about directions, and to talk about permanent situations. You will have words like generally, mainly, usually, every day, or every night. All these words help you to identify that we're talking about simple present tense. So that's all for your simple present tense. In simple present tense, to have a rough revision, we talk about regular activities, we talk about universal facts and figures, then we talk about something that is permanent, and we talk about directions and instructions. That's all for your simple present. Please do not get confused with simple present or other form of the verb, because simple present tense generally follow a very simple rule, and the only thing you should remember is S and ES of the main verb. Moving on, you have our next tense, that is present continuous tense. Now, before we dive into the subject, let's understand what the names suggest. Here, present shows that the activity is happening in present, that is today or now. Continuous shows that it's a regular process. It might have started, but it's still going on. That means a regular process going on. And that's correct. Present continuous tense shows that now when I'm talking to you, I am doing an activity that is in process. It has started maybe 5 minutes back or a day back, but I'm still doing it. And hence we use present continuous tense. So present continuous tense also follows a structure, which is M is R, which shows your present tense, plus verb and the ing form of the verb. There are certain uses of present continuous tense, and the first and the foremost is when you talk about actions happening at the moment of speaking. Very, very important. At the moment of speaking. I am watching TV. Or more easier example would be I am teaching you guys. So now when I'm talking, I'm actually teaching you. I'm doing two activities at the same time. I'm talking plus I'm teaching. So that means I started this activity and I'm in the process of doing it. She is waiting for her friend. So is waiting shows that the process still goes on and it's happening at the moment of speaking. Other use of present continuous tense would be to talk about changing situation. For example, today the price of onion is 18 rupees. Yesterday it was 15 and tomorrow it may become 50. So this is a changing situation all through, and hence we use present continuous tense. The price of onion is rapidly rising. So is an ing form shows that is a continuous tense. Also, if you look into in deep, that this statement over here is showing a situation that keeps on changing or it is rising. The mobile phones are making it easier for people to stay in touch. Are making shows that they are in the process of doing something, and they have been doing it yesterday, they are doing it now, and they are in the process of still doing it. Also, present continuous tense is used to talk about temporary situation. Unlike simple present, when we say I own a Mercedes, I mean to say that this is my possession, I have it. It's a permanent situation. But when we talk about present continuous tense, I will say I am owning a Mercedes. That means right now I have a Mercedes, but yesterday or tomorrow it can be something else. I am living in Bangalore at the moment. I am living shows that right now I am in Bangalore. This phrase over here at the moment clearly shows that this activity is temporary. It may change tomorrow. Another example, she is working really hard for a job interview. So when you say she's working really hard, that means right now she's doing it. What if she gets a job tomorrow? She will not work, and hence it's a temporary situation. Moving on, some words which will help you to identify temporary situations would be now, currently, at the moment, this week, month or year. I hope this is clear. So you can say, currently, I'm working in this company. So you're working right now. What if you leave your job tomorrow? And hence it's a temporary situation. That's all for your present continuous tense. Always remember, when you are talking and you're doing an activity, you can use simple continuous tense, present continuous tense. Simple identification would be is, am, are plus verb plus ing form. That's all. Or if we talk about simple present, we were talking about play and s if it's she, or if it's I'll just say play. So singular or plural, the tense changes or the main verb changes. Now let's dive into simple past tense. Simple past tense clearly shows that something that happened in the past. So that means that activity is completed now. It has nothing to do with your present tense. That's why we use simple past tense. Whenever you want to talk about something that happened or that is finished, you can use simple past tense. It follows the same structure, the verb plus ed form or d form. For example, Ram played cricket. So ed with the main verb shows that this activity is finished. Did not plus verb. Now here comes an interesting fact. Whenever you see did in your sentence, please use the present form of the verb or the normal form of the verb. You will not say, for example, did played. It's completely wrong. You can say did play or did not play. Please focus. Did in itself shows past tense, and hence we need not to write main verb in the past form. We will be writing in the present form. If you look into this sentence, Sita did not play cricket. I was trying to show an activity of the past in the negative form, and the main verb still remains the same. Now, what if we frame questions? It's very simple. Just take your did to the first part and frame the sentence. Did they play cricket? Main verb remains same. So that's a rule, or that's a fundamental you should remember about simple past, that it will either have ed form or d form of the main verb, or if we are using did, we will just write the main form in the simple present tense. Moving on, let's understand some of the uses of past tense, and the first and the foremost is to talk about completed actions. Often the time is mentioned. I completed my assignment yesterday. So when I say I completed ed form, I mean to say that this activity is over, and I have mentioned time to show and to assure that yes, it was an activity of past. You may remove this and still the sentence is simple past, or you may add this. It will just add a bonus point to your mark. She finished the race. That means the activity is finished. It's not happening right now. Past tense is also used to talk about series of actions in the order. For example, a friend of yours asks you to tell a story of your childhood days. So you can say, I studied in this school and then I moved to Bangalore. There I started working, or there I worked in an MNC. So now if you see here, studied action 1, moved action 2, worked was your action 3. In between you have used then or next words. So now when you have series of actions in sequence, you can always use simple past tense. I went to the bookstore, took a book and later came back home. So later is your identification that it's a series of action and hence we can use simple past tense. Or if you look here, went, took, came. All the main verbs are in the past form and they are over. The activity is completely over. And the words which will help you to show the sequence of actions would be next and then. Then she came to the party, removed her coat and sat on the chair. Came, removed, sat, all shows simple past. A word over here tells you that it's a series of action. Simple past tense is also used to talk about situations in the past which are not true anymore. They used to be true, but now they are not. Let's dive into the example right away. My dad worked for the police for 20 years. So that means this activity is over, but it's also not true in your present tense. It is completely a situation in the past which is not true anymore. So what we studied in simple past is, if you want to talk about past activities which are over, if you want to talk about situations that are not true anymore, if you have sequence of actions happening, you will always use simple past. The verb will take ed or d form, or if it's d, it will remain the same. It will not change. Did in itself shows that it's an activity of the past. Now let's dive into past continuous. It's very, very simple, but people get confused between present continuous and past continuous. So when I say present continuous, I mean to say an activity that is happening at the time when I'm talking, when I'm speaking. So it's an activity of present. A past continuous still shows that the activity was in process, but it has no connection with present tense. This activity was in the past and maybe something after this might have been finished and this was the background story. So at the time this thing was happening, this thing happened, this thing was happening. Don't worry, we have slides coming up to explain this in more detail. Now let's understand the structure. So past continuous follows a simple rule, was, were plus verb ing form. She was living in India. Or what if I have to frame a negative sentence? All I have to do is put a not in between. And now when you have questionnaire, I will always put was at the first letter and frame the question. Was she living in India? So was becomes the first word in the sentence and it frames a question mark. Other things that you should remember is ing form of the verb. So now let's understand why do we use past continuous tense. We use past continuous tense to give background scene to an action. She was lying in her bed when thieves entered the house. So this activity is over, but when this happened, this was happening. It was in process. She was lying. Now notice that this word over here, when, it shows that it's giving a background scene to an action. Ram was driving his car when a car hit him from the back. While is another word like when, which will help you to show that this is a background scene to an action. And the rule says was plus ing form of the verb. So if you clearly understand the situation, something was something happened, before that something was in process. And that's how past continuous comes into picture. If you talk about present continuous, you will just say she is lying in her bed. That means this activity is happening at the time when I'm speaking. Moving on, when you have to focus on activity without focus on its completion. I don't know when it started, I don't know when it's going to be over, but I know what is happening. There you use past continuous tense. Last year I was working in theatre, studying for my degree and teaching yoga. 3 activities. And all of them are focused moreover on what is happening rather than when it got over. That's how you use past continuous tense. Now, these 2 words right on your screen, used to and would, are very, very important if you want to talk about past tense. Used to and would are always used when you want to show something that was happening in the past and it was a repeated action of yours. You were doing it almost every day. She used to cook for me. So 2 things to remember. When I say used to, that means it was repeated, it was happening every day. And second thing, it's past. It's not happening anymore. Used to and would also follows a sentence structure like Ram used to or would drive the car. Automatically, if you use used to or would, your main verb remains in the present form. Did not plus used to plus infinitive. As I said, whenever you have did, used to will also become used to. It will not have D form anymore. A questionnaire, did Ram used to drive the car? Please notice this. If I say did, I will say used to. If I did not have did, I will say used to or would. So, used to or would is used to talk about past repeated actions. She used to drive the car. She would leave the window open whenever she was at home. That means she's not doing it right now and she was doing it regularly every day in the past. That's all for your used to and would. And used to and would is used, again I'm saying it, to talk about your past activities, past repeated actions. You can simply put this word, insert this word in your sentence and it automatically becomes a continuous process that you were irregularly doing this. Let me ask you a question. In your life, how many times have you faced a situation where you have completed a task a moment before now, or maybe recently, or maybe in the same day? If yes, then you would be definitely using present perfect tense. In here, you want to talk about the task that was completed and also you want to mention the time it was completed. It has its significance in your present tense. There is a simple structure that you have to understand in order to construct a present perfect sentence. For example, present perfect sentence always have an auxiliary verb, always have an helping verb along with the main verb. And the sign to tell you it's a present perfect tense would be helping verb will always be has and have, and the main verb will always be having it ed form or the past form. So in here we want to show that the task is recently completed or the start of the class has been recently started. Let's consider a negative statement. It's very simple and it follows the same rule of present perfect tense. All you have to do is add a not after your helping verb. If you have to frame a question for the same tense, then all you have to do is pick your helping verb to the first part of the sentence and write the sentence. Have you started the class? If these structures are clear to you, let's dive into the situation where we need to use present perfect tense. The first usage would be to talk about a time period that is not over. What if I tell you, I have eaten 2 chapatis this morning. Now, if you clearly focus on this statement, you can see that the task is over. I have eaten. The task of eating 2 chapatis is already over, but the day or the morning when it was over is not yet finished. So you can say that this is the present perfect tense where the task is completed, but the time period when this task actually happened is not yet over. Let's look into more examples. I have read a book this morning. Have and read follows the same rule. This morning shows that it's still going on. The morning is still going on. Moving on, she has met me this week. Saying that this week is still not yet over, so this action of meeting my friend can happen again. That's how we use present perfect tense in situation number 1. Moving on, let's talk about situation number 2 to use present perfect tense. It is used to show an activity in the past before now. Please focus on this part of the sentence. It is used to show an activity in the past before now. An example, I have finished plenty of work. So it clearly shows that at some point before now, I have finished plenty of my work. She has wasted a lot of time with him. So this activity of wasting time is already over, but it is over in the past, that was before now. Moving on, we need to understand what kind of words can we use to show that the time is in the past. So the words that will help you out would be ever, before, still, never, up to now, so far. So you can say, I have met my friend 2 times so far. Or I've met my friend recently. I have met my friend before 2 p.m. So whenever you find words like that, which clearly shows that this is an activity in the past, but the time period still is not yet over, we are clearly talking about present perfect tense. Situation number 3 to use present perfect tense would be to talk about a present situation which started in the past. Please remember, the activity is over. It's not continuing process, but the activity has clearly started in your past. I have taken care for this kid for 7 years. So now this activity of taking care of the kid for 7 years clearly shows that the activity started 7 years back and you might be still taking care of the kid. She has lived in this house since 1998. It clearly shows that the process of living in the house is very old, but she might still be living in the same house. And that's how we come up with the idea of present perfect tense. Also, situation number 4 where you can use present perfect tense would be when you want to talk about an activity that happened anytime in the past, but it is clearly connected to your present tense. I know this sounds a little bit similar to what we discussed in the last slide, but it has a little more difference here. The difference is it is connected to the present tense. That means it will have its effect on present tense. Example, Ram has read all the articles related to crime. So now, if today you ask Ram, do you have information about that crime that happened in 1996? He would clearly say yes, because he has read all the articles related to the crime. So in the present tense, he will have all the details required. That's how we use present perfect tense in situation number 4. Also, let's understand what kind of time expressions do we use to show negative and questionnaires. Recently, just, already, yet. So you may have faced this thing like, I have read this book recently, or I have just read this book. I have already read this book. I have read this book yesterday. So whenever you show an impression to talk about something negative, you want to show about a questionnaire, you can always use these expressions. You can frame a question and say, have you read the book? Have you read the book yet? Question mark. So now by using a time expression, I can clearly say it's a questionnaire in present perfect tense. Moving ahead, let's look into some examples. Have you written your task yet? This is the same thing that we just talked about. I have just finished it. So whenever you are in the boundary line or you are running late on the project but you somehow manage to finish it, you will use expressions like these. And they show that the sentence is negative or it's simply signifying a question. Moving on, since so far we are understanding that it has to do something in the past which has an impact in the present tense, then how is it different from simple past tense? Let's take an example of simple past. Ram finished the work. On the other hand, if I write a sentence, Ram has finished the book, or the work in this case. So what is that changes between both the tenses that makes us clear that it's a present perfect tense or it's a simple past tense? The first thing that you can look in here is the usage of helping verb and the main verb. That's very much sure. So in present perfect tense, you have an helping verb has and finished as the main verb. In here, you only have a main verb with ed form. So that is one identification we can come up, that this is present perfect tense or this is simple past tense. I hope this is making sense to all of you. So let's understand more differences. Present perfect tense links the past with the present. What does it mean? I have read quite a lot of book. So now I have read some and I will read the remaining now. So the task of reading the book has been started in the past, but there is certain task that is connected to my present tense. On the other hand, simple past only talks about past. I read the book. That means I've clearly finished reading the book. It has nothing to do with my present time period. Also, present perfect talks about unspecified time. I can say, I have read the book. Please forget about the question mark here. It's incorrect. So the sentence would be, I have read the book. When, where, which, no information provided. So it clearly shows unspecified time. On the other hand, you will see simple past tense to show specific time period. I read the book when I was in metro. So I'm talking about a situation when I was in metro. At that time, I read the book. Also, present perfect tense shows the time is unfinished. I have read 5 articles this week. So the time period of this week is still not yet over. I can still read more articles coming up in this week. On the other hand, simple past clearly shows the time is finished. I read 5 articles last week. Can you see the difference here? This week, last week. So this week, we might be on Wednesday and we still have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday coming up. But on the other hand, when I clearly said last week, that means it has nothing to do with the present tense and the task is completely finished. Let's go through the examples again. Let's go through the situations again. If you still have any doubts, please get back to me. Write in the comment section and I'll be ready with all the answers you needed. Moving on, let's cover up our next tense, and it's very, very simple. It's present perfect continuous tense. I know the sound of continuous tense make you a little bit relaxed. That's very much true because you know the activity is in process or you will have ing form of the verb. But how does it differ from past continuous or present continuous or any other continuous form of the verb? So present perfect continuous tense will have a simple structure, has been working. Main verb follows ing form, helping verb will be has, and an additional help will come from been. If you want to talk about negative situation, as I always say, please use a not and let the sentence remain the same. A questionnaire, same rule. Take your have or has at the first place and write the statement. So the helping word will always be has and have in present perfect continuous or present perfect tense. Let's now focus on the situations where we want to use present perfect continuous tense. Situation number 1 would be that both present perfect or present perfect continuous tense are used to say how long an activity has been going on. Now you must be wondering how present perfect and present perfect continuous playing the same role. That is very much true. In such situation, you will find present perfect tense to play the same role as present perfect continuous tense if we want to focus on how long the activity has been going on. The example, I have felt sick for weeks, or she has been feeling sick for weeks. So first sentence is present perfect tense and we are focusing on the time period. The second sentence is present perfect continuous tense and I'm focusing on the time period again. So in both the situation, all I'm focusing is on how long an activity has been going on. But the difference, if you can look here, lies in the verb. So in first case, the activity of feeling sick is over, but the weeks are going on. On the other hand, the activity of feeling sick is going on. In the past, the process has been going on over weeks. Let's understand in more detail. Present perfect continuous is sometimes being confused with present perfect, and the differences lies here. Present perfect continuous focuses on activity itself. I have been reading a book, no idea if the book is finished or not, but the process of reading a book was going on. On the other hand, present perfect focuses on the result. I have read the book. So now here we were focusing on the process of reading the book. Over here we focus on the book is finished. But we don't know when, because present perfect always talked about unfinished time period. And you know that very clear from your past slides. Present perfect continuous focuses on how long. I have been reading for past 1 week. So if you remove this, I have been reading, then also it was an identification of present perfect continuous. But to make it more sure, I'll write for past 1 week to show how long this activity was going on. On the other hand, present perfect focuses on how many times. I have read 3 pages. So I'm not talking about the duration. All I'm talking about the frequency of that activity happening or happened in the past. That's all for your present perfect continuous tense and present perfect tense. You would have understood so far that present perfect tense shows about an activity that has recently finished or it has some impact on your present tense. On the other hand, present perfect continuous tense help you to focus how long that activity happened or what was the activity, what was the process and what was the process of the activity going on over the time period. Moving on, we will get deeper into the thoughts of past perfect tense. It's even scarier, believe me. But if you understand a simple rule of past perfect tense, you will never ever get confused with this. So before we dive into the subject matter of the structure, I want to make you understand with a simple rule here. Let's imagine a situation. Time is 9 a.m. and the class of science is going on. At 8:50, the teacher has started the class. A moment before that, 45 or 49, Ram entered the class. So, when I want to focus on past perfect tense, I want to talk about an activity that happened at 8:45, but I'll be giving a background, I'll be giving more additional information of another time period in the past, and the talk is happening in the present tense. So I'm giving an information about 8:45 with a reference of another time period in your past, and that's how we come up with the idea of past perfect tense. So I can say Ram entered the class when the teacher has started the lecture. We are talking about an activity in the past with a reference to another activity that happened at unspecified time in the past. And we use past perfect tense. So don't worry about the structure or which sentence to come at which place. Just focus on how two talks are connected to each other. Both are in the past tense and both make sense in your present tense. The structure of past perfect goes very simple. Helping verb will be had and your main verb will be ed form or the third form of the verb. Same goes for your negative structure, had not listened, and the same goes with your questionnaire. Had will come to the first place. It's quite similar to your present perfect tense in terms of structure, but the helping verbs is changing. In the first part, we discussed about has and have. Over here, we talk about had. So let's not get confused with the structure. Let's understand the use of past perfect tense. When we are talking about the past and want to mention something that happened earlier, like when he entered the class had already started. So we are focusing on an activity in the past, that means entered the class, and we want to mention something that happened earlier. So the class had already started, maybe a minute after when he entered. A minute before when he entered. Now, if you look at the first part of the structure, you can clearly show a past tense or simple past tense, entered. But when you look in the second part of the structure, you can see had, started, which shows past perfect tense. But the past perfect tense is quite incomplete if you don't mention other activity that happened earlier or happened after. Another example, my father was a driver and my grandfather had also been a driver. So in here, been is used as a main verb, a form of do, and had is your helping verb. So we form a structure that my father was a driver, which was a simple past, and my grandfather had also been a driver. So we are focusing on an activity of grandfather, giving an example of an activity of my father. Here are two statements on your screen. I want you to take a moment to read the statements and understand what exactly are we trying to show or what difference these statements have. So statement number 1 is, when I came from gym, my roommate slept. You have a main verb here and you have a main verb here. The other sentence is, when I came from gym, a main verb, my roommate had slept. Main verb is slept here. Had is your helping verb. So take a moment, understand what is the difference between both the statements. Let me give you a hint. Please focus on the main verbs in both the sentence. Those main verbs will help you to guide whether it's a simple past sentence or it's a past perfect sentence. Coming back. In sentence number 1, we have two main verbs, came and slept. Came clearly shows that it's a past tense. Slept also shows it's a past tense. So the first doubt is very much clear that we are talking about a simple past tense in your first sentence. In second case, we are talking about an activity of my roommate sleeping and we are giving a reference of another activity coming from the gym. So the first part is simple past, but the second part clearly shows past perfect tense. So the difference that we were referring to is, in the first sentence, I came home and then my roommate slept. On the other hand, in the second sentence, my roommate slept before I came from the gym. So can you see the difference in both the cases? In the first case, you came home and then the roommate slept, which shows that there is a series of action. I came from gym, roommate slept. If you remember, this is the case we discussed in simple past tense. When you talk about a series of action, we use simple past tense. In the second case, we are talking about an activity from the gym, coming from the gym, and giving an information of something happening at unspecified time. That was, my roommate had slept. So in here, something happened before something happened. But in the first case, something happened and then something happened and then something happened. Let's talk about other cases where we can use past perfect tense. We want to talk about an uncertain time period before a particular point in your past. So here's your timeline. You want to talk about this time period. You don't know what time is this, but you know a specified time, which is, for example, 7 p.m. in this case. So you want to talk about this time period before a particular time period that you already know. Example, by the time he was 14, the young boy had finished 1,000 books. So let's focus only on this part of the sentence. In here you can show that the boy had finished 1,000 books. But do we have any idea about the time when was it finished? No. Now combining both the sentence, by the time he was 14. So 14 is your particular point in the past, and finishing 1,000 book before 14 is the time of uncertain time that we want to refer to. Also, you will find certain words like always, sometimes, never, before, by to talk about such periods. So over here, if you look, you have a verb. Sorry, you have an helping hand to show by the time he was 14. This is your particular time and this is your unspecified time. You can also say sometimes, you can use always, you can use never, before. Try framing questions, try framing sentences using these expressions. If you have doubts, get back to me, we'll make it clear. Now comes your last part of this chapter, that is past perfect continuous tense. Again, continuous tense clearly shows the time period or the duration the activity was going on before a certain activity happened in the past. That's how we use past perfect continuous tense. The structure will be simple. Had been studying, ing form shows continuous, had been shows past perfect. Framing a negative sentence would not be tough in this case as well. Had not been studying. Please remove the questionnaire here. I don't know what is the mistakes here. Please don't focus on the question mark here. It's a full stop. Now let's talk about a questionnaire. You will say had at the first place and say had she been studying in India for long and a question mark. So over here you need a full stop, not a question mark. Past perfect continuous tense is used to focus on how long an activity continued or to focus on the activity itself in some cases. Like, she was gifted in the dance and she had been making excellent progress. Or, the kids had been enjoying for some time. So in sentence number 1, you are simply focusing on the activity of dance. Instead, in the second sentence, you are focusing on how long was the activity happening. So sometime is the significance to show how long, and she had been making excellent progress. She was gifted in the dance clearly shows that we are talking about the activity. That's how you can segregate past perfect continuous tense. Past perfect continuous tense also is used to talk about past things that did not happen as expected. This is an additional information, and you will definitely use this information in your upcoming speech writing or essay writing in your IELTS exam or any other exam in particular. Also, when you talk and when you share some stories, this point over here will definitely be helpful. An example, my dad had expected to be re-elected as an MP, but in the end he only got 10% vote. So there was an expectation and there was a situation he wanted things to happen, but it didn't happen that way. You can use past perfect tense in this case or past perfect continuous tense as well. She had been hoping to be the top in the class, but she was too sick to write the exam. So this is past perfect tense and this is past perfect continuous tense. Both the tenses are clearly showing that things did not happen the way they were expected to be.